Hello, this is David Clive Price, and you're so welcome to the Asia Business Network Expert Series. Coming up today, we're going to talk about educational exchanges between East and West. And we have an awesome guest in the experts chair today. It is Susan Fang. Susan is a world-leading cross-cultural educational consultant and thought leader with a mission to unlock the next practices in education by leveraging her expertise in education and bridging the gap in education between East and West. Susan is the co-founder and CEO of Academic Powerhouse, part of Oxbridge Holdings, the world's leading educational consultancy, which provides independent and professional advice on all aspects of UK education, as well as all aspects of China and Far East education. So we're thrilled to have Susan here today. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, David.
Great to have you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'd like to start off, if I may, with a question on East and West cultures and educational exchange. What do Chinese students and parents look for exactly when they choose to study overseas, especially in the UK?
Well, us Chinese, we're savvy investors. So Chinese parents, Chinese students, when they're looking to study abroad, they put on their investment mindset. They're looking for the best ROI, return on investment. However, in my opinion, I think they're looking for the more intangible stuff rather than the tangible. So we're talking about prestige, status, or anything that could add value to their face. When I say face, David, I'm pretty sure you understand what I mean.
Well, I understand, but for the listeners, that's a very important concept in Asia in general and in China in particular about saving face. Not doing anything that will put your partner or your counterpart in an embarrassing situation, not perhaps asking too direct question, expecting a yes or no answer, things like this. So that's a little aside. Yes, so for their face and also for prestige and status. Susan.
Indeed. So anything that will help boost their personal and family values. Family values is particularly important because in China, there is no sense of self. The smallest unit of a community is family. So I would say Chinese parents and students often look for famous names. And the most obvious in the US, for example, are the Ivy League institutions. In the UK, that will be Oxbridge and some of the university colleges. And secondly, funnily enough, they will also look for famous town names. So any university with a name that sort of echoes the town, such as in the UK, we have Manchester, Liverpool, and to a certain extent, London School of Economics and Politics, because it has the name London, the capital city. These three universities, of course, they're all very, very good universities, but if you look deeply, sometimes they might not be quite up there with what we in the UK think are the Durhams, the St Andrews, the Exeter, or even a business school such as Cranfield. However, Chinese will not look at that. They rather think, hey, I actually recognize the name.
Yes.
The city, so they will go for that.
That's interesting. The recognizable names are so important. I suppose that translates also for brands, also recognizable brands over in China and in Asia in general. So they're looking for brands, they're looking for locations that they can understand, like London and Manchester, and they're looking for prestige and status. And how about the family? How does the family fit into this? Are they looking for places, for example, where they can easily come and visit as a family?
Well, some parents, I mean, if they're actually bringing their children here at a younger age, say independent boarding schools, and of course, distance to the Heathrow Airport being very important in their mentality. Having said that, once we explain to the family that you are coming from China, and most of the time the parents will be living and residing in China. It doesn't matter whether your children are studying in a school nearer to Heathrow or closer to Edinburgh, because the distance between China and the UK is the same,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So I wouldn't say distance to an airport or to a municipal city is that important. It is all about the brand names of the university, how recognizable it is among their communities, and I'm talking about the Chinese community, rather than, say, in the UK or the US.
And what about for the universities, for example? Is it important that they have a school of Far East studies or Chinese studies, or is that really not necessary? Because after all, they're coming from what are they looking for in terms of subjects? What they're going to be studying?
Yes,
And do the universities, the choice of universities, does that play a part in that?
Yeah, well, right now, the subject area that attracts Chinese is always going to be business. And when I say business, it covers a whole wide realm. The top of the list will be accounting and finance.
Right.
And then it comes to business and management, to a certain extent, international business management.
Right.
And the third will be marketing. Now, MBA is not so much of a pull because majority of the Chinese students, they like to do their studies in one go. So that means having done the bachelor degree, they go straight on to their master's degrees, which means MBAs automatically might not be their top of the list because they haven't got any work experience in order to help them get admitted to the top MBA schools.
Right, so they're looking for hard business subjects, really, that will stand them in good stead going forward in terms of business largely, not so much the softer, shall we say, cultural studies or languages, etc.
Unfortunately, no, not at this stage.
Right.
I would say maybe in 5 years, 10 years' time, China is changing, and the time it takes for China to change will be much, much faster than, say, the time it took Japan or Taiwan, for instance. I'm from Taiwan.
Yes.
So my personal experience of Taiwan is that back into the 80s, a lot of Taiwanese families are sending their children to the USA for postgraduate studies, and it's very, very much focused on the business, the finance, and the marketing. However, 20 years on, it's now coming up to 40 years on, we've already seen the market shifting and changing. Taiwanese families and Taiwanese students these days are looking more about the creative arts.
Yes.
It could be very pragmatic, applied art and design, or it could be design management or creative entrepreneurship, that sort of area. And they're also beginning to look into international development.
Right.
About charity, about how to contribute in the third world. So they're going through a process where Japan was going through maybe 30 years before. So I anticipate China will go through that in the next 5 and 10 years' time, when the whole of the economy of China, the disparity between in wealth becomes more narrower, when everyone is more content with their materialistic life, and they'll start thinking about contribution to society.
Right.
So that's my prediction.
Well, it's a very interesting one, especially for UK universities and schools thinking forward. In that context, what would be your top tips for UK universities and schools, or Western universities and schools, on recruiting or marketing students from China?
Oh, it really helps if your university or schooling have a city name that resonates in China.
Yes.
In USA, it's like Boston, Washington, New York. Try to get these names into the title of the school or the university. I think that would play a major part. But back to your first question, which I answered about the ROI, which is what the Chinese are looking for. Really, they want their children to go to a place, a university or school, so that they can actually talk about it and be really proud of it.
Yes,
And
yes.
hopefully don't have to take too much of explaining. They just have to say the name.
Right.
And another thing, which is ranking.
Yes.
Chinese, we Chinese, we love ranking. Let's go back to the Han Dynasty time, because the whole Chinese emperor system is based on the imperial examination system.
Yes.
And that system really did help shape China's intellectual, cultural, and political life.
Yeah.
So I think it's in our blood to go into exams, and through the examination, you have a ranking system where you rank all the the top scorers, and the top ones will always get the better job or the better position in their political career, and hence it's a reflection of society.
That's a very
So name and ranking. Unfortunately, you just have to what we call it in industry, play the game.
It's a very curious point, isn't it? And I hadn't thought about that, but of course the old imperial civil service exams and scholar officials, that's all very much in Chinese history and heritage, and somehow, as you say, must be there deep down in the blood. So UK universities and schools should take that on board.
Yes.
In their rankings and in their search for rankings and the way they present rankings, I guess. A recent survey showed that Chinese consumers choose their agents for universities and schools mostly based on reputation. Again, the reputation is so important. So what's your advice for UK universities and schools, Western universities and schools, on choosing a good agent in China?
Okay, I've read that survey as well, David. I'm so glad that you brought it up today. Now, that survey is really about how Chinese family consumers choose an agent. Okay, and that's the reputation. Although it's important because obviously the more reputable the agents are among the Chinese, the more customers they're going to get. However, I think it will be wrong for a Western university or a Western school to choose an agent purely based on how reputable or how popular or famous they are among the Chinese societies, because they might not be the right fit for that Western institution. So, my advice would be for the Western institution wanting to tap into the China market, number one, you need to define your objective. Okay, this objective, it could be, I think, there are four that spring to my mind immediately. Is it as simply as student recruitment, bums on seat? Is that what you want to achieve? Or it could be you want to establish institutional links, whether at a school level or at a university level. And that could be, cultural exchange, research exchange, or even co-owned program. Okay, so and I think because different objectives will mean you need to choose a different partner. And it could be very well be that you want to enhance your brand awareness in China.
Yes.
And number four, I would say maybe you want to establish some sort of alumni network so you can continue this influence.
Right.
Okay, so it really depends on the objective, and then you'll find the different agent to fit those goals. So, but generally speaking, I would say there are 5 rule of thumb factors. First of all, if you're a UK institution, you've got to find an agent that's UK focused. Same thing, if you're from the US, you've got to find an agent that has a track record of sending students to the US and they really know what they're doing.
Right.
And often these days, agencies, particularly the big ones, the really humongous ones, they want to do everything. They're so greedy. They do US, UK, they do a bit of Europe, they even do, Pan-Asia.
Yes, there's a lot of global agents, aren't there? I've noticed that.
Global agent. So don't be fooled thinking, oh, they're so big, they do everything, they must know it. No. I think if you're looking for a partner, you've got to do your due diligence and find out how good are they in the certain countries that you want to work with them. If you're a UK institution, you've got to see, so how good are they in dealing with the UK? So focus is very important. Focus on the market. And secondly, I would say size. It does matter in terms of choosing agents. Big and small, it will fit different purposes. If you want bums on seats, you just want the numbers coming in. Maybe you go for a big agent, has lots of offices all around the country, and that's very focused on the on your destination of study. Say if you're UK university, very big ones, say Birmingham, they're huge.
Right.
If they want to fill the number, possibly they need to partner up with a big agents, UK focus agency, and they can ensure the numbers will come in. However, if your purpose is to really focus on certain departmental needs, so you don't just want to fill your business school, which is a very, very easy task. Because like I said, all Chinese, you don't really have to do much marketing, and they'll come to a business school if you have the brand and as such. But if you want to fill, say you mentioned about humanities and all the other social science subjects, that's something the Chinese currently are not purchasing into, not wanting to study. Then you need to find an agent that's willing to work with you.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest, they will not be the big agents.
Right.
Because big agents, they will do the easy task. It's easy for them to fill the numbers. Why would they focus on the other, what to them is much more challenging tasks? So I think, the size will matter, and big or small, there's no, the advantage of both.
So you have the challenge really of finding the right agent for your type of studies, course, sector, etc.
Yes.
And at the same time, I think there must be some further challenges in order to find, as in business, in order to find the right partner, in order to find the right agent. There are cross-cultural challenges involved there, don't you think? There must be that you have to understand how the Chinese ways of doing things works. So, what do you think are the main cross-cultural challenges you've encountered in this role?
Well, there's so many. I don't know where to start.
Yes, right.
Okay. I think very importantly is the management of expectation on both sides.
Yeah.
So, say from the Chinese point of view, things move very fast in China. They expect things to be turned around overnight. I think first and foremost, you got to make them understand. In the West, things work differently. There are rules, and there are certain time frame that you need to respect to get things done. So time management is one thing, trying to explain to the Chinese that in China you might be able to turn this around in one day. In UK or the US, it might be 1 week. It could be 2 weeks.
Yes.
And also to the Chinese, they have a certain mentality, fixed mind about what makes a good school or a university. They like to see the hardware of things rather than the software. What I mean by hardware is that the campus and the school ground got to be big, got to be, you have to have a very monumental building, and the facilities got to be very modern. And the parents really, really love good accommodations. So it's all about en-suites.
All right, that's what I mentioned earlier, yes.
Kids, yeah. They probably come from very wealthy family. They'll, right from a young age, they have ensuite bedrooms themselves, one to each bedroom. So that is something if Western University they really need to up their games in terms of their sort of hardware facilities. But also to the Chinese, I think we need to work on the Chinese to make them understand there are certain rules and regulations in the West that they need to respect. Because after all, coming to the UK or the US to study is not just about getting that degree, isn't it?
Yes,
it's also about acclimatization and really adapting to a different culture. So little things like they need to understand to meet someone you need to make an appointment. You can't just go up and turn up.
Yes.
Or if you decide something's not for me or for them, you need to give notice. You can't just say, okay, we're going to stop the deal now, or I pull my son out of the school straight away. Notice is important.
Right.
I think another thing which very tricky is certain roles in schools or university, they have a different meaning, a different status than these roles in China. I'll give you an example. For example, housemaster, house mistresses in UK independent schools. And I'm pretty sure this will, be the same in the US. This is very important and highly respected roles. In fact, after this person is a housemaster or a house mistress, their next step could be the deputy headmaster or even a headmaster of a next school. So, in terms of a school career ladder, housemaster and house mistresses are very highly respected. However, in China, if you have a school, a boarding school, let's say, housemasters and house mistresses are just regarded as such as matron. So, I think it's this different kind of expectation of the role that we need to sort of convey to the Chinese to make them understand you need to show respect.
Respect.
Mm.
Well, Susan, this has been a really fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to do this. Just before I let you go, I have one final question. You've been running your business for over 15 years. To what do you attribute your success, and what could listeners learn from your experience with East-West Exchange? In a
Right.
nutshell.
Okay. I think passion is very important. I'm very passionate about education. And I'm in it for the long term rather than the short term. My mission has always been helping people, whether they're students, families, or corporations, or even education institutions. It goes both ways, wanting to make a better transition between the East and West, or vice versa. It's never about purely the business goal of making money. So I think the mission, if your mission is to help others, and the other things will come. So I guess that's what I wake up every day and be very energetic and wanting to do things, the things that I do, and that's what keeps me going.
And that's what comes up very strongly in what you say and how you approach the subject. Your passion comes over and wanting to be of service and help. And I'm sure that's a really important tip that listeners will want to think about and prepare themselves for if they're dealing with East-West educational exchange. So that's it for today. I'd like to thank Susan for being my guest. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, David. I really enjoyed it.
It's been great to have you. And if you'd like to know more, please visit Susan's website at www.academicpowerhouse.com. That's one word, academicpowerhouse.com, which is also there at the links below. And listen in to more news and views on doing business in Asia at Asia Business Network Expert Series, to which you can also subscribe on iTunes. So until the next time, happy listening.